Hello, hello. Welcome to Cake with Kelsey. I am Kelsey, and I'm here tonight with Kinetic 100. He's on the line,
Hey, what's up?
live
What's up?
and direct. How are you?
Exhausted.
Yeah. What, from the weekend, from the week? What? Just,
Yeah, from the whole Caribana weekend, I pumped hard. So
did you? Okay.
I
Well,
pumped hard.
I hope you share a little bit of your experience and your take on things. Um, I'm actually okay. And I did do something yesterday, but I got home early enough, which I appreciated, and I was in bed at my regular time. So um I got to relax a little yesterday. So it was all good. But like I said, we'll get into that in a minute. Tonight is our month end kind of roundup. So it's the cake mix up edition, July edition, where we just talk about anything and everything that went down in the month of July. And there are a lot of things that happened. Um, I've highlighted the things that stood out to me because so many marriages, one long one and then a couple of really short ones just ended like that. And I don't know. Every time I see a marriage ending, it does something to me. And I'm like, there's a few like one brand new marriage, and if that one goes down the drain, like I've just lost all hope. Like I'm done, and I'll tell you who that is in a minute. But for now, thanks again for tuning in. Vexradio.com is the best place to listen, watch the show, where you can comment and interact with us, and look out for the live link where you can join the conversation. All you got to do is download Google Hangouts, have it on your phone, your PC, your tablet, and click the link, press OK, and you will be directed right into the conversation to voice your opinion and give us your input. And I'm really encouraging it tonight because I really want to hear from married people or preferably happily married people who can give us some secrets, some tips. I don't know, share some wisdom in how to sustain or stay married, basically, and also we just celebrated, enjoyed Caribana Weekend and or the Caribbean Festival in here in Toronto. Just wrapped it. What is it? A 2-3 week long. Um, Not so long, but because most
It's
of
about
the
3 weeks, I don't know.
yeah, but most of the
3 weeks.
events take place in the final week, the final um, run, which just ended this past weekend. So with the big parade and the king and queen, the crowning, and all that good stuff that happened this past weekend. So anybody who wants to join the conversation and call in and share your experience, you're welcome to do so. Like I said, vexradio.com, and just click the link to watch the show live and look out for the link in the little convo box below. And remember, vexradio.com is the best place to listen to new and old hip hop R&B 24/7. So lock it in as one of your favorites and stay entertained 24/7. And on the website, you get a lot of juicy gossip and news and everything like that too. So check out the website as well. So yeah, so I didn't do too much. And I mean, we spoke about Carabana and everything last week. And it took a totally different spin. I think we got into the politics of it and the
Yeah.
organization and all that good stuff. Um, but one thing we spoke about people who, and I've heard other shows, I listen to other radio shows, and I've heard people commenting about who actually feels welcome to the parade and other events, who it's marketed to. And I get the sense that a lot of people think it's being handled wrong. But at the end of the day, I spoke to a lot of people who actually went down to the parade and they thought it was great. They loved it. I mean, people who play math, like
Really?
yeah, like everyone I spoke to who
Uh,
actually went down there at a reasonable time, who didn't just catch the last hour or so, but they thought it was nice. Like they had a good time. They saw a lot of people. And I didn't make it. I actually didn't make it down there. I was going to push out a little too late. I
down,
had some other
down
things
there.
to do. Were you down there?
Yeah, I was down there
Okay.
for. See, my family came up. Actually, my nephew came up for the first time to
Okay.
Caribana as his first Caribana experience. So I just
Okay.
made sure that pump was real and right for him. So we did it all. Like I basically made him a tourist. Did the
He's
whole tourist thing.
he's an adult? He's
So
like over 19.
yeah, he's an
Okay.
adult. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
he's 30. I say adult. He's more like my brother, more like my
Okay.
friend. But yeah, he's 37, 38. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Big man.
So
Okay.
it's like you. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So he came back for the first time from the States. So we did everything but play mass because
Okay.
it was a last minute thing for him. I remember I was supposed to go to crop over, so it's kind of like it was just jumbled. So we didn't get to play mass, but I was in the area, and wow, it's like what I'm really surprised because it was like the space. Not to complain because we really enjoyed ourselves. It was a good time overall. As you said, the reunions, and that's what Caravan is really about: the reunion, the foods, the costumes, the parades. But to me, there was a lot of disorganization, too much space in between the floats. So
Mm.
it was like, there's long periods of nothing
Okay.
kind of thing. And then that's where all the, hey, what's ups and, the sit
Yeah, yeah,
spots
yeah.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and the people you don't want to see and the people that you do want to see. And,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's like, it was like that. But as in for the organization of it,
Mhm.
and of course there were stormers that we talked about last week. Unfortunately, I was kind of one, but not really. But
Mhm.
it was just that I wasn't a stormer like jumping in the parade per se, but I did go into the area after the long in betweens. I saw people, so I did go in, but I never interrupted with the concession.
Okay, okay.
But you know what I mean? It was a lot of stormers as usual again, and there was a lot of disorganization, a lot of time in between waited, but overall it was a good time.
Hmm. See, I don't really, and
That
that's
was
I was
quick.
surprised because
Oh,
I was home for a part of it and had the TV on because they had it playing on one of the 24-hour news stations here,
right.
and it seemed pretty late, and they were like, "Oh, we're just like on the second or third float," and I thought, "Wow, that I mean, considering how
Yeah,
long it was."
that's
So
what
I
I'm
get what
saying.
you're
Yeah,
saying, yeah. But I mean, that was working for me kind of when I was like, okay, I could probably still get down there. But then the best, it seemed like the biggest and the best were going out first. I guess that's the order. I don't know.
right.
I'm not,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so then I thought, but then they kept saying, well, we're going to circle again. And so you'll get a chance to see them again. So, but
That was supposed to be a plan, even though even Saldina was supposed to circle around. They didn't. There was supposed to be a
ah,
second time, and
wow.
they said it became a and I guess they just didn't. So yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was saying. It was to me. That's why I was saying the experience was. I was like, what? Like,
Mm.
no, that's my experience was there was a lot of disorganization, and you know,
Mhm,
but as I said, I give it overall. If I was playing mass,
mhm.
I would have been totally pissed.
Yeah.
Pardon my language,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
I would have been totally. I would not have been happy if I paid my money. What happened? But overall, I give it a six and a half.
Okay.
It was a lot of people, so it's still got a passing grade in terms of that the event going on and stuff of that nature. It's just the organizational part of it was not as successful, and I said the long periods of wait and stalls in between, and you know,
Mhm, mhm.
so yeah, but I mean, we have or the one celebration that we get, so I'll take it.
True. Yeah. And next year is the 50th anniversary, actually, I
Yeah,
heard them saying. So that in itself, like I'm thinking they gotta go come a little bigger, better
yeah,
somehow. I don't
yeah.
know what like I said, I don't know as far as organizing, promoting, I'll just say because I didn't even get into this last week too much because but as far as the event being promoted within Toronto, and I mean, I don't know outside of Toronto because obviously I don't live anywhere else, but I find like the city itself, like the businesses in the city, um, because yeah, the sponsor, the main sponsor is one thing, the organizers, that's another thing. But I think a lot of the businesses, that benefit from having the crowd and all these people shopping and spending their money. And I don't care if it's really not okay, a million, like they say, even if it's half of that, there's still a lot that comes into the city, and a lot of people benefit from it financially. And I think the fact that businesses here don't promote it, don't celebrate,
Right.
don't, and I'm so like, this is something trust me, I've been in certain stores that I frequent, I spend my money in, and every other um holiday, let's say in the city, I see flags up, down to forget sorry, to the green one. What is this again? St. Patrick. Like every other um weekend, holiday, big celebration. There was one that just happened a month ago, huge. And the
Yeah.
amount of big name companies, you're walking down on Bloor, on Young, and you're seeing these big time companies that are decorating their store windows and decorating their whole store with flags of different colors to celebrate a community and to celebrate the people and the movement and the culture, whatever they want to label it. And I'm talking about a lot of them throughout the year, different celebrations. And I
Right.
always look out and I'm like, it comes down to this. And I'm waiting for the day I see, all the Caribbean flags lined up, which
Right.
and nothing. And I've said, you know what, one day I'm going to sit down and write a letter, but I'm like, okay, what is that really going to do? Just get it off my
Oh
chest,
well, you
whatever.
can start.
But
No, no,
I mean,
that's
it's a
good.
start, right? But
Every
honestly, it makes me sick. This city, I feel that it doesn't embrace it. The businesses, like I said, the people of the city, they do not embrace this celebration, and that's a lot of the push and getting a lot of people excited about something too. So I'm not going to put it all on the organizers of the event or the even the city who whatever whoever sponsors them, or even the main sponsor. I'm saying everyone else benefits, and I think everybody else should. I mean, within the TTC, I don't see anything.
right.
Maybe I miss it, I don't know, because I don't ride it like every part of the TTC, but I don't see anything promoting this. And I mean, even they are benefiting from it somehow, some way. So I
Yeah.
just that pisses me off. And I think if more people celebrate it throughout the city, I think it would enhance it on so many levels. Personally, I think so. So that's my
Well,
take.
yeah.
But
And yeah. Well, since you've been very straight, I'm gonna be equally as straight and
uh-huh.
say that well, I'll put a little filter on it, but I
Hmm.
just think that when it comes to Caribana and a Caribbean celebration,
Hmm.
it's 3 points that I've stated in the past and in various conversations.
Hmm.
The first thing is, again, there's an old world thinking in the organization, like a control thing where they don't give it up. There's not a new mission of fresh thinking, right? So that's a big problem. They won't relinquish control, and they think that the old way of doing things, because of the success of the event, they don't have to do anything else. But it makes no sense if you're not making the money that you're supposed to. The second thing is, because of the big success of the event, I think that if you want, they don't like they will not give you money unless they are forced in a way. Like, people won't give up money at the end of the day if they don't have to,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Yep.
it's one of those things where, you know what? Yes, we are the biggest North American celebration. Period. That goes for every celebration out there. We're the biggest North American parade concession that goes out. So they can say whatever they want. All the other festivities and all that
Hmm.
stuff,
Hmm.
they don't bring in the money that we do.
Hmm.
So I think what it comes down to is basically, in a sense, Caribbean community should just get very sue the city for more money,
Mm.
right? They just put up a lawsuit and then make a judgment and let there be a if there is something, because if the city's not putting up the money and not supporting, but there are other, like they give. the other parades or
Mhm.
the other things a lot more money, but we're bringing in 10 times what they bring in.
Mhm.
It says something that we're the jewel of North America, not the jewel of Canada, not the jewel of, the jewel of North
Toronto,
America,
yeah. Mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm,
We're the jewel of North America in terms of parades, the amount of people that come into the city. So I think it's just simple. We just go sue them. And the third thing is that the people in the West Indian community,
mhm.
we already know when Caravan is. We all know it's the first episode. It's been 49 years, so we know they don't need to promote to
Yeah.
us.
Mhm,
Promote to all the other people. There's a lot of other people like, what you meet. They're like, play, or like, I'd love to dress up in those
yes.
costumes, or different people. So the idea is promote to those people.
Mhm,
Let them, figure out the mass camps and where to go and get post the address, and that would how you help the mass camps. That's how you think, and then when we bring in more, let's say, for lack of a better term, color or races, we'll start getting the
mhm,
sponsors that would,
mm, mhm. You're
I mean,
kinda
those
breaking a bit, but, but I'm gonna say
uh,
something. I've never played math, like, I've never been involved, and that's not like, I'm not in that world, and I'll tell you, I feel like an outsider because I don't know all the and then when you speak to people who are part of it, they kinda speak to you like, um as if, "Oh, you don't know?" Like, I mean, it's just this,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
And then they kinda, like, I don't see I've never seen any of these bands or whatever. I've never seen them promoting on a large scale to say, "Hi, if you'd like to play, Matt, like, come join us." No, I don't know. It's the word of mouth amongst the
Exactly.
people who've been doing it, and
Exactly.
there's tradition. Let me tell you, I used to work with someone who this mature white man who happened to do a lot of work with the organizers over the years through the city, and he's the one who schooled me on all these bands and the legacies and whose father is passed down to this and stuff like that. But and it was
Right.
all new to me. I was like, oh, okay. And then I actually went to the launch event and this and I saw some of the people involved and sat at had dinner with some of the organizers and stuff like that. And so then I was like, wow, it's like this whole new world, but they
Well, but
don't
I
even.
did say that though.
Yes,
I did
I
allude to
agree, but
that.
I'm
Remember, I
saying
said that
you
the
did last
Trinidad.
time.
If you're not Trinidadian, then they don't let you in, or like it's on the truth.
No,
Like if
and
you're not Trinidadian, they don't let you in, and they feel it's their thing, not a Caribbean thing. Whereas now Mass is, they have crop over. You have, Grenada. You have like you even LA has a new one. Like Atlanta has one.
yes, yes.
It's grown beyond. It's grown beyond Trinidad.
Hmm.
And that's why I said there's an old world thinking that, and they won't relinquish control for those people that are qualified, that have new ideas and fresh ideas.
Hmm.
They won't relinquish that control. They
Hmm.
think that this is our thing and we have to control it.
Hmm.
And if we don't control it, we lose. Like, but the thing is, again, it's gone beyond that. In order to, we have to supersede Trinidad in order to grow this thing and organize it properly. It'd be 20 times better. We're a jewel. We're amazing. It's an amazing event. It's an amazing idea. You don't see any sad faces on people's face. So
Right.
what it comes down to, and everybody's enjoying themselves, and we're all eating food, and we're, as I said, the reunions, and it's just a feel good for the city.
Mhm,
And of course, with that many people and that many elements come in, you may have one or two bad stamps. But the
mhm,
fact remains is that we've only had two bad instances in, you know,
mhm,
49 years. There's other
mhm.
surrounding stuff in the
Yes,
city that
okay.
goes on, but it's not contributed to Caribana itself.
Mhm,
But it may be, adjoined because it's around the same time.
mhm,
But yes,
mhm. True, 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 true. But I heard this one radio host say the other day, he was like, he honestly gives it like 10 years. He goes, he thinks it'll be done over with, a thing of the past, history. And I mean, I don't know if I go that far,
crazy.
but
It's crazy.
you know what? But when you start thinking about it, you're like, okay, if the fresh ideas and the new minds and the new direction and or and keeping the heart and soul of it the same way, but just thinking steady growth every year, just like how are we going to push this a little bigger, wider, better, whatever you're doing, like every year it should be enhanced somehow. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I don't see, I mean, the biggest talk I hear is, oh, the height of the fence, is it higher or lower? Like, I mean, what is that? I know it matters,
Yeah.
but that's not gonna pull me. Like, oh, the fences are like, I don't care, so it's, you have to, like, is there a special attraction, like something happening, or like, I don't know, there just has to be something, they need to up it. And you look at an event, like, I'm going to take it to another place, like, but we look at Jamaica because Dream. I mean, everybody talks about crop over and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and but with Dream, let's say, that has nothing to do with this, right? And this, I know a lot of people from, I mean, the States, but I know people personally from Toronto who left. And so you have the option of Caribana or going down to Negril,
Right.
Jamaica for Dream. And I've seen these people down there market it. What's that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen, it started just as party weekend,
Yeah.
and it's grown and grown. Then they extended it to a week, and now they have shows built in. I mean, once upon a time they didn't have that, and it's a totally different world as far as how you get sponsors involved there, and the government and everybody who comes together to
Well, you got to be different though.
it is different, right?
Less is a way. Like, you know what?
East,
You can't have alcoholic sponsors
exactly.
here,
Right.
whereas in the West Indies you can. Like, you know what? You're allowed to advertise your brand
Right.
as a title sponsor. Like,
Right.
like a certain prevalent cognac, I guess, or whatever brand, that did in the parade, as always.
Hmm.
But in terms of, like, are restricted, or your sponsorship restrictions are mass. And as I
Hmm.
said, people don't have to give away. Like, I saw companies take guerrilla marketing
Hmm.
advantage of the parade and not contributing to it.
Hmm.
See, like, they're giving away products, and and it's like, those people should be regulated,
Right. Right.
right? If somebody was saying, it's like, it should be contained in a way that people won't have access to those people, like, or limit their
Just to
access,
come
or
in, exactly.
yeah, like, you know what,
Or
if you have
tax them,
interest in
yeah.
yeah. But the thing is that, if it was me personally, I'd have a committee walking around to all these guerrilla marketing tactics and say, look, if you have interest, why don't you support it and come be a part of it, and we'll give you a bigger platform,
Exactly.
right?
And that's
Because
a way. It's
I'm
just,
sure, yeah, I'm
go
sure
ahead.
that, these companies weren't approached,
Hmm.
so they just sent people down there to give out
Do
products,
their own thing. Hmm.
right? And as I said, if you don't have to give up money, you won't. But if you're approached, then these companies would probably have a good conscience because they've been approached. They
Hmm.
didn't have people, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, go down there, get all these products. Say, look, last year you got a freebie with us. Please sponsor us.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And as I was saying too, with the other party, or the event in Jamaica now a few years ago, I mean, this is something I think a lot of promoters had even thought of, or maybe they reached out. But with these guys, they actually had people, ambassadors or whatever you want to call them, promoting the event here. And then and
Right.
still to this day, they have these promoters selling selling
Tickets.
packages and
Yeah.
tickets and things like
Yeah.
that to draw. And that's how you do it. So you go beyond. Okay,
Yeah.
you got your main, you got your home base lot or whatever. So now let's step out. And I mean, it's like, go across Canada, like have people coming in.
Well, that's
Um,
exactly what it is. I think that's also part of it is that the mass camps are underfunded, but they're not helping themselves. They're relying on funding and just Toronto people to word of mouth. Like, what, my nephew's coming in, so let me tell him this is what I'm playing with.
and this is
Versus
and
going out there
that's what I'm
and
saying.
spending
Like,
money advertising it.
with
Sorry, go on.
floats, I'm thinking no, and that's what I thought. Like, don't these people have sponsors, like a big company or something that would love their name splashed across? But even the coverage, when you look at it, the coverage, it's done at a certain time for a few hours on one station. It's interrupted, and I just think for something as major as that in the city, there could be like a full. Obviously, they can have commercials, but like proper coverage, television coverage, and I think that would push it a little more too. And the other
Right.
thing is, oh gosh, I totally blanked. Sorry. There was something else. Oh, but I know we were looking at alcohol, and I mean, it's the same thing that happened here with cigarette sponsors, because once upon a time, like
Right.
Toronto Fashion Week was sponsored by a major uh, cigarette brand, and this is like decades ago, and they had to cut that. And as a result, I mean, they went through a couple different sponsors over the years, and now where it's, I think, no longer happening or possibly not happening because the money involved. And I know other events that I was supposed to be a part of could not continue because,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
instance,
suffered, yeah.
Eaton's was going to be a major sponsor, and then Eaton's went under. And so it's, liquor and cigarettes, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, those are the ones who have the money and they can back it. But when you look at Scotiabank, and Scotiabank is big involved in events even in the Caribbean, especially Jamaica, just because of the history there, right? And it's been there, you know what I mean? So, like, that's no excuse either. But I think the companies, whether they're small, around the way, within the community, or larger, these people, these camps, maybe they need to step, or the organizers in general need to bring more of the money that comes in to the city and rotate it back toward them. But I don't know.
Or
I don't know. Yeah.
you know, the local mom and pops, if everybody contributed, they don't realize that instead of bringing in 1 or 2 million people, they could bring in 10 million,
Hmm.
and it'd all benefit because
More.
there would be the marking dollars. Like, you know what? As
Exactly.
I said, you know what? There's a lot of people that don't understand. Miss Ashley Supernet, and I hope you're enjoying yourself out there in whatever way.
Uh-huh. I
But
know. I was gonna. Yeah, I was gonna mention at the top of the show. Explain why she's not here. Yeah. Uh-huh. But go ahead.
yeah, but the whole idea that what she said is that, the education and the culture, she was absolutely right. I don't know if it's, you know was the major instance of the education, but the fact remains is that would love to get dressed up in costumes and play mass and be a part of the culture. Because as I see, like, I was at an event on Thursday, no, sorry, Friday night, and believe it or not, it was 50% Caribbean. The rest were white, Asian, and Indian.
Hmm.
And along, see, so I was sitting there in amazement that
Mm.
I was like, just everybody, like, an Asian group. I
Hmm.
don't know if they're Chinese. I don't know what if they're whatever it is. There's an Asian group, maybe about 20 of them, leading the charge, jumping all night long,
Okay.
singing word for word, everything. And I was like, wow, like,
Hmm.
appropriation. But I was like, at the other time, I was like, I was in simple amazement, and I love the fact remains that they embraced our culture. I was like, yo, these guys are the real deal.
And how you
Like,
know
it
they
was
weren't from Trinidad?
everything,
Or from,
huh? Yeah,
I
like I
said
said,
hi.
they were
Oh.
somewhere,
Uh-huh.
but they than us, like, and they were
Mm.
singing like harder than some of us, and like, I was simply amazed. I was like, my
Yeah.
overall
Yeah.
feeling after was, I was just like, I felt like they're going harder than us. There were some people in there that you look at, you're like, what? You should be ashamed,
Right?
Caribbean person, that these Asian people that
Mhm.
are clearly not like Jamaican Chinese or Trini Chinese, like they were real Asian
Okay,
people
okay, yeah,
jumping up and down, singing word for word,
yeah.
and I was like, some of y'all really need to be ashamed.
Mhm.
this big enjoyment, like, I was amazed, and I was and I had this mixed feeling, and at the end of it, I was just like, these guys are the real deal. Like, salute. It felt so good after, and
Uh-huh.
I was just like, this proves exactly what I had said before. Whereas, you know what, I would probably love to be a part of this culture because it's nothing but happy,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a happy feeling when
And
on the
free.
road,
Yeah.
when you're meeting people, like,
Hmm.
yeah, and you know what, and if we educated them and gave them access to let them know how to get, because that's the biggest thing. People don't know how to, you know,
Exactly.
become a part of this.
Hmm.
But if you look on the road, it was on that you were alluding to. If
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
if you looked on the road, it wasn't just black people.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
It was a lot of other people,
Mhm.
you know, like of other races, which is beautiful. So
Exactly.
it's like there's clear interest. Bring in the mixes. If we bring in the mix of different cultures, what's going
Mhm.
to happen is that. Sorry about that. I
Mm-mm.
just turned off
Mm-mm.
my
It's
phone. If we bring in the
okay.
other races, then the fun will come.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
sponsors, you know, it's because right now it's, you know what, and
They see
I
limit, like
I said I was
it's
gonna put a
limited.
filter on it, but I'm gonna,
Mm. Real talk, honey. Real talk.
yeah.
Hashtag.
Well, I said I was gonna put a filter on it, but this is my bro. If it's gonna be real talk, then this one direct, and I'm gonna say it like this: is that West Indians, black people in North America, not only just Canada, North America, are tolerated.
Uh-huh.
We're not accepted,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And the minute we take ownership of our own and start on quote unquote the man and other we have to take ownership of our own responsibility because we're only tolerated. We're not accepted. We're not. You know what? We're here because they have no other choice by their rules now. But we're
Mhm.
not accepted. We're not. We'll never be a part of, their world, right? So it's just one of those things where we just have to take ownership and responsibility and go out there and demand things. If you don't ask, you don't get.
True. But then, there's that catch. There's that other part where, when I see a lot of others, especially European or white, the people who, big weekend, it comes up, what's up? Everybody's out. Like they're out for the weekend. Like they're going to the
Right.
cottage. They're like
Right.
they're like out of the city. They're like, oh no, it's too much in the
See,
city or whatever. And they'll never say, like
see,
the
that's
reason.
yeah, of
And
course.
I'm
No,
just
it's a black weekend. Americans come in, they run. But
exactly.
here's what is not being said. Not being said
Uh-huh.
is that just as much other white people and other nationalities are coming into the city. So Toronto
Exactly.
might be displaced, but other cultures, other people, are
Oh yeah,
coming
they
into the
plan
city.
their
Like
trip. They plan
my
their
my
summer trip
nephew,
around it, to catch it.
right, right. That's what I'm saying. So
But
as
I'm
much
saying
as
the
they're
locals,
running, the
exactly what you were
Europeans are running.
saying to that
Yeah,
point of the locals here, it's kind of like, okay, this is their weekend, let them have their weekend, we're out kind of thing.
it's black
Um,
weekend. Yeah.
right. It's just
But they also we got to remember something though. It is a long weekend. Every long weekend, everybody's looking to go to colleges. It's just their incentive because it's not considered their weekend. Again, you know what? If they had access, maybe they'd stay. If they learned about
this
it,
is
maybe they'd
true.
stay.
No, this is true. You do have a lot of people leaving and Canada Day, long weekend. However, I see a lot more. I see a lot of people. I can't say more. I'm not going to say more because I really don't know, but I see a lot of people making a point to be a part of the big parade celebration that happens around Canada Day, and that's a huge weekend to leave the city. You know what I mean? But I find
Right.
people almost feel like you have to support, and people come to me and ask me like, "Oh, you go?" Like they're like, "Oh, you're not going?" Like, and I'm just like, "Oh, wow, okay." As in everybody's supposed to be doing this now, whereas with this, they expect me to be there because it's Caribana and I'm Caribbean and blah blah blah. But it's you're going, right? It's not, you know what I mean? I could tell that it's oh,
As
that's
now,
your
are
thing and
we
you're
going
going.
together?
Right.
Yeah,
It's,
but I think it's part. But again, because again, it's primarily because it's considered American thing, a Black American thing, and without the education, like if it's kind of like what we're not. It's not a Canada thing. It's not a Caribbean celebration that everybody's welcome. It's a Caribbean thing, and Americans
right,
come,
right.
right? So the
Yeah.
dynamics of Toronto changes, but it's one of those things where if it's up to our responsibility again to say to a Caribbean guy, come and like I have a very close Italian girlfriend that's never been a part of this.
Hmm.
And I'm now being requested to tell her when these things are going on.
Right. So
Like,
she
you know,
knows.
like
Yeah.
she now betting with, she's never been exposed to it. She now loves it. It's
Mhm.
kind of like, you know, and you can see it. Like, I'm not even joking. If you go on, you know, I Connect 100, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You know,
Mhm.
Coco Bree won.
Okay.
She now is fetting
Right.
me. You know, shout out to you, but and she's a very close friend. She's straight Italian. You know,
Yeah.
and you know she's never been a part of it. I've taken her a couple fets. Now she wants to go to Trinidad with me. She wants to go to crop over with me next
Mhm.
year. Like, you know, I'm doing both. I'm be here and then I'm gonna jump out and go to crop over after. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it's because it's represented as a Caribbean thing
Mhm.
and Americans come, they don't feel welcome. So that's why it's a you. Oh, you're going, you know, and we're leaving. But it's also a
Mhm.
long weekend. It's just, you know, long weekend people go to cottages. They go away. That's, you know, we have a lot of,
No, that's
you
true.
know,
No, I mean, yeah, and we
Caribbean.
don't have that much summer, so whenever people can.
Right,
But
you took the
I
word from my mouth.
I
I just thought,
when I compare to certain events and certain weekends, I find it's a big one. The last one, I guess, like Labor Day, I mean, this is the last one, right? So everybody makes a point of doing
right.
something or traveling. So I get it, and I'm not, and I would never hold it against anybody to say, "Oh, you left this weekend. That means you're not interested, whatever." But like you said too, where are the ads, the commercials that that celebrate, that show beautiful images from it that will actually attract people to say, and
Right.
I'm talking about these things running in June, or you know what I mean, to get people excited, or July, that type of thing. So I don't know.
But forget about Toronto. My point is, you know,
But that's
even
what
though
I'm
we
saying, like
have
across
their,
Canada, or
yeah,
you know what I mean.
like, exactly.
I watch West
But
Coast channels. I don't
again,
care what you think.
it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to go out there and get funding, and you know, in advance for a year. We shouldn't be worrying about sponsorship this year. We're supposed to be worrying about sponsorship 2 years from now,
Right.
right? That kind of thing, and that like next year's sponsorship should be already lined up.
Hmm.
We should
Exactly,
be working
especially
on,
for the 50th. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. We
I
should
think
be
that.
already sponsored. It's a
Mhm.
lot of, as I said, there's a lot of backwards thinking. It's part the organization, part our fault. It's part the mascot fault. It's definitely Toronto's fault, or the city of Toronto, because again, we're only tolerated, but they
Mhm.
will accept all the, you know, like I don't care what you say, like, you know what, and this is not a slight against the gay parade, but we bring
Mhm.
in 10 times the amount in the gay parade, but they get 10 times the amount of sponsorship and support.
There you go.
Because why? They forced their lifestyle, as you know, like they basically, what they did was, you know what, they leveraged their lifestyle to get sponsorship, you know, so, and they've made it a happy time. But we are even a bigger happy time. We're a bigger parade.
Mhm.
Sponsorship along those fences could be, you know, done. How much product placement,
Exactly.
and you know,
Exactly.
and as again, it's not the, yes, the parade is a jewel of that thing, but there's
The whole
3 weeks
time.
worth
Yeah.
of sponsorship.
Leading up. Exactly.
I mean, 3 weeks worth of sponsorship opportunity. There was 3 weeks lead up to that parade.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Sense to me that we are not capitalizing on that at all. It makes absolutely no sense. The
Yeah.
one is, you forget it. Okay, Toronto doesn't want to do it. You go to the states, because you know you got 2 million Americans
Mhm.
coming into the thing. You go seek states and plaster the whole city with their
Yep.
sponsorship.
Mhm.
And then when Toronto sees that, maybe it'll kick in like, hey,
Exactly.
you know, we should be doing the same.
Yeah, I don't
You know,
know. And you would think that
and to
this
get,
many years in,
yeah.
the team would be growing. It would be huge. They would probably even own a building where they work from. Like, I don't know, but my limited knowledge of the organizer, I don't think the growth is there within the organization. No.
Well, I've had, as I said,
What? I
I've been
can't hear.
organization, and I'm telling you from
Okay.
inside. I
Mhm.
said I've been a part of that organization. I volunteered. I've been a part of it, and I'm telling you straight, it is
Mhm.
the old world mentality that is a Trinidadian thing and not a Caribbean thing,
Yeah.
and that is a, and they won't really get that is in this volunteer and help them out. At the end of the day, it's our thing, not our thing. It's a Trinidadian thing.
And that, yeah,
That's
and
the
that's
mentality.
why, and I mean, I hear you saying we, and I'm just kind of like, I don't even feel it like that to say to, I don't even feel, and like I said, I know hardly anything about it, and the people that do talk about it, and they connect it to, and this is a personal thing, but the people I know, they are from other islands in the Trinity, and then they kind of link it to that as if, and I'm like, okay, honey, we're talking about the Toronto parade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get that, but you guys have you need to remember where you are, and there's a huge carnival in Trinidad already. So like you're not duplicating that necessarily. You know what I mean? Like you have to look
Well,
at where you
let's
are.
look, but you know what? This is my point, though, is that even as from what I've been hearing from people that in 10 years, maybe
Uh-huh.
even 5 years, Jamaica's going to be bigger than theirs and better than theirs because there's like
I
they're
hear
they're
people
saying that
talking about
well,
that. Hmm.
right?
I
They're
hear.
like and like I it's like I haven't been as of late,
Hmm.
but what it comes down to is I enjoy Trinidad, but
Hmm.
if I'm hearing that Jamaica's is better, and this is coming from even Trinidadians,
Hmm.
you know,
It's a
and
different
let's
vibe.
face
Yep.
let's face it, you know what? Right now, the Bajans are making the best soca. It's
Okay.
like it's not a Trinidadian thing. Trinidad stepped up last year
Oh Lord.
with their
Okay.
stuff because the year before with all Bajans. But
Hmm.
again, Bajans now have come out with the best soca. The groovy
Okay.
stuff, the chain. So you know what? It's again, in order to grow the culture,
Hmm.
you have to relinquish control of the culture. And it's kind of like just put the most qualified people in place. And
Hmm.
yes, we acknowledge that this is Trinidadian culture, but it has now
Hmm.
superseded Trinidadian culture. This is now
Yeah. I mean, you got to
make
tailor
it
it
a
to where you
Caribbean thing.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to tailor to that and look at all the parts. And I mean, if you think of like, I don't know, but you think of like the African, and we're all kind of rolled up in, as far as Toronto, there's a
yeah,
lot of people here that roll into
yeah.
what comes out here. And so, yeah, you got to just think bigger and where you are. And like I said, and the same thing, like one thing about events in Jamaica, like they start small, but their reach, their where they see
Quickly,
the
yeah.
growth and the potential, they see so much further than the small,
But you gotta
limits
understand,
of even around them. Hmm.
yeah. Jamaicans have a different mentality though, because we don't
Exactly.
necessarily honestly see color. Whereas there's racial
True.
division in the Caribbean itself. Whereas what our Madra is out of many one people. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, and we really live that out. You know what I mean? Sure, a Jamaican will call you Miss Chin or Indian because that's everybody's name, or Mr. Chin, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
And we nickname, but our mentality is we see you as Jamaican. We don't see you as, oh, you're Chinese Jamaican. No, you're Jamaican.
Hmm. But then there's that
Whereas,
whole class thing.
and the
That's a
other
whole
the
another
Caribbean, yeah,
topic.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Right. So
And I mean, even though there is a slight bit of colorism
yeah,
in there,
there
people
is.
want to be lighter and they're bleaching
Hmm.
and stuff. That's epidemic in Jamaica because they feel that there's opportunity that comes with it. But the fact
Hmm.
remains is more like Americans. We're American. You know,
Hmm.
you're not. You know, yes, you're identified as Afro American over there, but if you ask any American, yeah, I'm American. When they
Exactly.
entitle
Exactly.
themselves, then they say, yeah, I'm Afro American. If you have to address them, but you ask any, in Canada, we say we're Canadian, and then we've now over the last couple of
But we
years
do
come to that.
always no, but I think it's different if you say where you from, like, or where,
Yeah,
or what are you type thing. I think,
yeah,
we own that we're Canadian, but then we also attach.
you're right. I'm Jamaican,
Right.
but we say we're Jamaican. Like I never say, oh, I'm Canadian. Like I say, I'm Jamaican,
Exactly.
right?
Mhm.
But if somebody comes in, oh, they would say like, but
Can't
if I
hear
travel
you.
abroad
Can't hear
from the
you.
states, oh, sorry, if I travel abroad or I'm in the states, I say, I'm Canadian. But then they say, oh, no, no, where are you from? Oh, I'm
Right.
Jamaican. Like you're Jamaican Canadian. Like you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I acknowledge Canada when I'm abroad,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
speaking in Canada,
Mhm.
I'll tell people I'm Jamaican.
Because that's kind of what we're asking. We know
So
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Well,
it's
I
kind of
think
like,
so as far as parties or anything like that, what did you do? Because I ended up one party that was not had nothing to do with Caribana, honestly. It was like a regular night somewhere, and as I
yeah,
sat in the parking lot waiting for my friend, um, like a group of people were leaving. I was like, "Why are you guys leaving?" I always ask when I see people leaving a party that I'm about to enter, and they're like, "Yeah, they're not playing any, clearly Americans." And it was about three couples that were leaving, and they said they're not playing any Caribbean music. They're playing all old school hip hop. And they're like, "Yeah, this is Caribana Weekend. We need some Caribbean music," and makes sense.
yeah.
And so again, it doesn't matter what club, what you're connected with, at some point celebrate what's going on in the city, because you have people that are they're going to end up at your club somehow, some way, and keep them there, satisfy them, like mix it up. That's fine, but play a set, like do something, like acknowledge it. And
Well,
this
you got to
is
remember, there's. I know exactly what you're saying. I agree, but the thing is that you got to remember, there's two long weekends during Caravana time. There is Caravana, the real deal, the fets, and then
mhm,
there's the Americanized holiday, and then actually,
yes,
and there's the regular Canadian holiday or the Canadian long weekend as well. So you
true.
have three things going on, but when you have 2 million people coming into the city, and they're just roaming. Now we've been relegated down to the club district has been
Mhm,
relegated down to King Street from King and Spadina, or call it King and Blue Jay Way, or maybe even King and John to Bathurst and King,
mhm. That
where
little
all the clubs downtown are, and then all the real events are like at the docks, and then at
mhm,
like where Sound Academy as they call it.
right.
Then they're all uptown, or they're in other
City, like, yeah.
banquet halls, or something. Yeah, like they've gone all uptown. So
Mhm,
depending on what you're coming for, again, these Americans come downtown, and some of
they're
them just think
expecting
it's
a
a big
certain
parade.
vibe.
I mean, I
Mm,
I, I even I was at a as you talked about the events I was at. I was at a quote unquote um
mhm,
it was just like a regular club, and came down there, and they didn't understand that, like, this is not America. We don't play just trap, or
mhm,
hip hop,
mhm,
like, like we play, dance and euro and all that stuff, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
I mean, and they were like, miffed, and they were like, kind of, it's like you went to the wrong kind of club.
mhm.
And for your listeners, what I do is I look at the crowd that's going in, and that will assess what music is there that's going on. If you obviously see a lot of white people in the club, then guess what? You're not
Mhm.
going to get necessarily what you want,
True, if
right?
depending, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So look at your crowd. Look at who you're partying with. Don't just look at it as a big long lineup. Look at the crowd that you're partying with,
Mhm.
and that will determine what you're going to get. So don't complain about it because they're not playing what you want. And you've
What's
come into Toronto. Like, you're
Yeah,
if
but
you're
some
American,
people don't
coming
know, and
into,
they're just thinking this is a huge place, so, okay, I see a lot of
well, no,
white
they
people
didn't
doing it
realize
now,
it's
but
a big giant parade. I've heard about this Caribana thing.
true.
A lot of Americans, again, our education just here's a big giant parade. They don't understand, like, when they go to Labor Day weekend in New York, and
Mhm.
it's supposed to be a Caribbean parade, but yeah, they have Caribbean stuff, but they still play, so
Everything.
that's what they're probably thinking, right?
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things. Like I went from Wednesday, I was on boat ride after boat ride after boat ride. I was
Mm.
at Fed after Fed after Fed. I went to the
Wow.
parade, obviously. I was like, I given my
For your
nephew, I
nephew,
was just
yeah.
giving him the real experience.
So what did
I
he
was giving
think?
him the Toronto experience.
What was his
He
take on
had a
everything?
blast. Like,
Okay, nice.
that's leaving. He's like, I need to
Oh.
move to Canada. Like he always said that with Caravana, but
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
just like, what like all Americans, how beautiful our women are, how beautiful and
Mhm,
clean our city is, how
mhm,
accepting everybody is,
mhm.
you know, and
True,
it was just
true.
one of those things where his overall experience, I made sure that he got the real deal and what Toronto was about during that day. So as I said, that's why I said I
Nice.
went to some white things. I
Yeah,
went to
and the
some, I did
tourists,
the
yeah.
patios. Yeah, we did parking lot limes before we went to Fed.
Okay.
I drank my weight in alcohol. So that's one of those things. I mean,
And you weren't driving?
it was just
No.
no, no, no,
No,
no,
no,
no.
no, I know, I
Well,
know. No,
let me say no. I did drive, but I just didn't drive drunk.
drive drunk. There you go. You took turns. There you go. Okay.
Uh,
Well, no, I mean,
yeah, it's like
but I think, yeah, I think overall, I think the vibe was nice. I think, from what I heard, people, who did go out, they enjoyed it, and I don't know. I'm really looking to see what they're going to do with this 50th anniversary, and I'll
yeah.
see if I'm even in
To
the
be
city.
honest, I
But mm, you don't even
I
think you're
think
going
it's
to
gonna
be
be
here?
much the same. No,
Really?
no,
Okay.
I for the 50, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
here. I'm gonna be here until probably the Saturday and the Sunday, and I'm
Okay.
gonna fly out to crop over because, you know, I just think what's happened now is that Caribana, for me personally,
Hmm.
Caribana is for the young. But you know,
Mm,
when I say young, I mean like 25 and under.
hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I think anybody that's older appreciates the real Caribbean vibe, and they go to crop over. A lot of people have left the city again, and some people are like, I'm just too old to play mass. I'll never say that. I'll be that 90-year-old man sitting on the street alone and play in my feathers
Oh
and costume.
gosh.
You know, like I will be that much. But you know, I think after a while, some people just kind of say I'm too old to play mass, so they don't. So
Mm-hmm.
it's for the young,
Well,
the
we'll
experience
see. I
ones that
think,
have gone through the whole thing have gone to who want to play will go to crop over.
yeah, I guess, but I think there are people who still they love it. It's this is home and this is theirs, and so I think there's still a lot of people who are passionate about it, which is great. But like you said, there are other like you said, some people go back home. That's their real home, or other people,
Yeah.
they hear about the experience there. I've never experienced it there as well, but I've seen
Well,
images. I
same
don't
with
know if
me
I could
next year.
handle it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. But I okay, so we're gonna switch it up totally
Yeah. Yeah.
here, just because
Right.
there's other things that have happened, and just because I've posted about it, and I've done this in the past where I post about something we don't even touch on it,
And we didn't
but
talk
I'm
about it.
going
Yeah.
to take the time to remind any listeners who just popped in that if you missed the first bit of the show, we have a little more to go. But if you missed it, this is a podcast, and this is number 18, so you can listen to number 1 through 17, and this one actually when it's finished, um, on a bunch of podcast um, platforms, I guess. And I list it on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So if you follow me, Cake with Care C, you can find out where you can look it up. Or your favorite podcast provider, you could just look for Vex Radio or Cake with Care C, and you'll find the list of them, I'm pretty sure. And so one thing I just posted, because I put a post and then a video post of a bunch of marriages, and I mentioned at the top of the show marriages that have ended recently. And I'm just going to touch on like the three that I actually posted about. So Mary J. Blige and her husband of I think 11, 12 years, can do.
Yeah.
Um, she called it quits. So she's the
Right.
one, she was like, I'm done. She don't know the real reason, don't know if we're ever going to know 100%, because they did a pretty good job with keeping their business out of off the streets. I remember hearing at some point it was a bit rocky, shaky, whatever. He had kids. He has some
Yeah.
young kids that I think are around the same age as their marriage. I don't know their relationship. So, but Mary, obviously, like as you know, doesn't have any children. So I don't know if that was arranged or accepted or whatever, just because of the situation. So, but she seemed to be very involved in his children's lives. And then there's little Rudy, Keisha Knight Pulliam, who, of course, played the youngest child on the Cosby Show, Rudy and Rudy Huxtable, and she recently got married to oh gosh, what's his name? Okay, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Former football player, and he filed for divorce after,
Mm.
I believe, Ed Hartwell, that's his name, sorry, and I think it was after 6 months of marriage, 6 to 8 months of marriage, and she's actually a few months pregnant, and she just made that public to the world, um, that she's expecting their daughter. So he not only filed for divorce, and she said he did it in the shadiest way. He woke up that morning like everything was fine, left home, called her in the afternoon and told her, I filed for divorce this morning. And she was
Uh,
didn't even see it coming.
Devastated.
Yeah. And the fact that she's pregnant, I think, like, dude, like, you could have, I don't know what the details are. He did come out to say that she's spoiled and she wants things her way. And on top of it, he's asking for a paternity test, because he said he's not saying that she cheated, but he is saying that she left and she was out of town for weekends and gone to do things for days at a time. And so he says it's only right that, it's part of just making everything
Yeah.
official. And she has no problem with it. She gave one interview recently and she said that's all she's doing. And but he claims that he sat her down and spoke about them kind of rushing into the marriage shortly after dating, and it seemed as if she did that just because she's not as young. I mean, we still remember her as that little cute girl, but I think she's hitting her 40s or something like that, and she's close. So I think, and she was dating, what's his name? Tigga. Remember Big Tigga from BET and all that? Like,
Yeah.
so she was dating him for a while and that they broke up. So this is now a new relationship. I think he's older than her, and he was fine with marriage, so they actually did it. And the next step was to have a child in her eyes. And to him, it sounds like he said, you know what, we kind of rushed into the marriage thing, so let's take a minute before the child. And she's like, no, I don't have a minute. So anyway, she ends up pregnant, and I think he felt like they just rushed it. And I'm like, what do you mean rushed it? You've already gotten married, and,
Well,
and
sounds
no one. So I'm just like,
Sounds like he didn't really have a choice in that
but you
that birth.
okay. And now the other
Right?
one now is this relationship expert, who was married
Rob
to,
Hill.
Rob Hill Sr., who was married to Latoya Luckett. She was one of the, I believe, yeah, she was one of the original members of Destiny's Child before
Yeah.
everything went down. Now, I mean, you would think, like, I used to see him posting things about her, not everything, but when it became public, and I was like, okay, this is the real deal, man. This man, like, he has enough sense, experience, it seems, and some of the best advice ever. If you read his posts, you follow him online, and to see that
Do what I say, don't do
within,
what I do.
right, but within 2 months, they were having
Yeah.
problems. 2 months of their marriage, and it is now official that they are divorced 6 months after their marriage. And it seemed, though, like as if they were trying to keep that hidden from the public. And so his posts were, they would mention divorce, but never ever, came out and said, well, guess what? We tried, and it didn't happen. I mean, I was seeing images of them recently thinking, wow, what a beautiful couple. You know what I mean? And not knowing. So I'm just like, is marriage even relevant? Like, does it mean anything? And I was saying the couple that recently got married, Sierra and Russell Wilson, like, I have so much writing on that couple. And man, if I could just scream so they can hear this, don't disappoint me. Don't. And I'm just hoping that they've done it the right way, quote unquote, in my eyes. I don't care what anybody else thinks. Um, and I'm just hoping, but you see things like this and you just wonder, like, really, does it make sense? And I know these are celebrities, or, somewhat, they're popular people, they're in the public eye. So you can't really compare, our everyday low key lives to theirs. But
Yeah, but that's what you took the words out of my mouth. You were picking my brain
okay,
today.
go ahead, go
I was
ahead.
saying, yeah. No, I was saying basically they live by different rules than us, right? The pressures of being on tour or away, or the media, or that's a different level than the average Joe.
Mhm.
So, and you got to remember something. There, a lot of a lot of I guess arrangements
Mhm.
or marriages are arrangements.
Mhm.
It's my gene pool is small. I make X amount of dollars. This is the so all right. I got to pick. So that means there's 100 couples out there in my tax bracket that I won't have to support because you know this is the states. We don't do prenups,
Mhm. Mhm.
the standard prenup. Whereas you come in what you get in the states. If you put in time, you're gonna get you're
Cash
gonna
out.
still get something,
Mhm.
right? You're gonna cash out. So
Mhm.
the pressures of just that alone, again, as I said, they're arrangements. It's all right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm attracted. Like let's be honest. Like for instance, even though I love them together,
I know who
you
you're gonna say.
tell me.
Are you gonna talk about a couple? They've been married for a while.
Well, no, they haven't been a while. They were
Okay,
and
no.
they got back. Drake
Oh
and Rihanna,
no.
like right, like Drake and
Oh, okay,
right.
okay. Go ahead.
I
Speak on that one.
I love
And
that.
Rihanna was here this weekend for the big OVO, which we did not mention, but yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh,
Go ahead.
well, that's the standard. He does surprise, but if you didn't know that
Yeah.
she was going to be here, you're a dummy.
Yeah.
So it's one
Yeah.
of those things where, yeah, they're seeing each other and they got back, and but let's face it, in Drake and Rihanna's tax bracket, how many superstars that are, if you're into quote unquote black love, are in your tax bracket? Beyonce's already taken, Nicki Minaj is taken. Who else do you got
True.
that has your money, right? Rihanna, right? Like that's just natural. Who else is there really? Lauren Hill, like like
Yeah.
Missy Elliott. You get what I'm saying? So you have the tax bracket thing, then you have the attraction thing, thing, and the pressures that go along with all of that. They're in a different world. So when they get together, to me, as sad as it may sound, it's an more of an arrangement based on, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm attracted to you, but you're in my tax bracket because they're capitalists down there, right?
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
in Canada we don't have that many superstars, so what are you gonna do? So that's
Mhm.
just a different. It's just a different world than the average Joe.
And I'll say it again. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't care. I don't buy the whole Drake Rihanna thing. And you know what? He might be great on a different level behind the scenes, but I don't know. There's just something that just doesn't click well. And Rihanna might cuss me for saying something like that about her man. But for real, I don't see it. Like I don't get it. And I just think it's the same. And every time I see an image, a picture of them on stage, you just know what you can just picture, close your eyes and picture what you see going on stage. It's always her bent over, him standing behind, like gonna
No, but you
like,
know
like
what
I'm
though?
just like
Yeah,
whatever. Like it just
but let's be
and
honest though. Like
that just
I,
seems like that's just everything. It's just manufactured. It's just like it's just whatever. I don't
but I know where you're getting
get it.
that from. I know,
Uh-huh.
I know where you're getting that from. I definitely know where you're getting it from because at first when I thought it was a pro too when they
Yep.
first got together just to promo the singles and stuff of that nature. But
Yeah.
as of late, the latest pictures that you see, like they do have history,
Yeah,
and
no,
maybe it
definitely.
was the right person, wrong time,
Yep.
and then they got together. Well, they're both older,
But I see what you're
so I mean
saying,
it's
but
just one
it's
of
it's
those.
them being on that level, and it's like and realizing,
Yeah,
going for people maybe based on passion or other reasons, but then coming back to the reality of it, like you said, and so looking at it, weeding people out, saying, okay, I tried that with a no name, or I tried that with someone who touch me a certain way, whatever, and it really doesn't work.
yeah.
So who else? And I'm not saying there isn't any kind of passion or attraction or anything between the two of them. I'm sure, I mean, there could
The timing, I
possibly
know,
be, but I
and I
just
know
don't. Mm-mm.
exactly where you're going with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
but as
feel
I
that
said, I
one. Put
know
it that way, I don't feel it.
maybe it was. I think as I said, them coming together to promote the single maybe have reignited them. But I'm seeing, as I said, when I first saw it, that's exactly what I thought. I sat
Yeah,
there and went, "Oh man, this is just a promo singles. They both have their albums coming out. This is a promo single to get people talking, and
yeah.
they're business people at the end of the day. But again, everybody did say that about Jay-Z and Beyonce as well when they were doing the high thing. You know, what I mean, all that stuff first. That you know what? Oh, they're friends. They're friends. They're friends. They're just doing this for publicity. But look, they have a child together. They made it,
Mhm,
right? So
mhm.
I guess we'll wait and see if that happens with Rihanna and Drake. But as of late, there seems like genuine affection there. There seems like a genuine relationship. She's always in the city. She's been here a lot. So they're not.
And
There's
I take that as, and I mean, who am I? I'm just whatever. I just see that as I think they're cool. I think they have a great friendship. And you know what? That's the basis, and it should be of a great relationship. And so,
yeah,
if that's the direction they're going in, and passion develops and all that good stuff, then more props to them. Like I think they complement each other in a lot of ways. And you could get deeper and talk. And she's a Pisces like myself, so she can gotta get deep. And Drake looks like that type that you can
right.
sit and talk to and touch your soul and all that good stuff. So I could see it happening. But Rihanna, she just looked like she need a little more spice. Sorry. And I don't know if Drake has it all like
Straight
that.
back and
Yeah, I don't know
she's
if he
straight back.
yeah.
Man. Man,
But
she's a lost soul to me. She was a young girl that's a lost soul that got into this business and she was always a bad girl. It wasn't this promoted, marketed good girl, bad gone bad. Like you know,
yep, yep.
she was always a bad girl. But,
Oh, I've heard some
we
stories.
won't
I've
go.
heard some stories from some real
That's
Jamaicans
what I'm saying.
that got
She
the
was
real
always
deal.
yeah. Uh,
But that is not my business to be talking about
yeah.
here. Mm,
Right. But
yeah.
as far as if I can switch gears about those divorces, like um wow, like as I was saying, going back and bringing it back to topic,
Mhm.
whereas those divorces have you can't blame or wrong them for not making it because of all the pressures that surrounding pressures and circumstances that go with fame and that level of I guess celebrity, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot that the media in your business spreading, bringing up past histories,
But you know what I think?
friends and
You know what I
family.
think though is like I look at Mary and Kenji, and they were married for about I think they said 11 years they were married. That's a couple
Okay,
that
yeah,
actually
then,
tried it. They've been through it. I remember there was they were having problems a few years ago that surfaced, and they worked through it. They stuck it through. I think they tried, and I mean I can't judge anybody whether you make the decision early or later. You try, you don't, whatever. However, when these people who are doing these 6 month, 2 months, 8 months stint, you're making a mockery of it to me. And I think you you splash your
well, again, I think those are arrangements. Those are not you know those 2 months. Those things there. What that happens is that what again, it's just one of those things where take the time to get to know each other. I'm a strong advocate.
I can't hear you. I hope I didn't
Again,
you
I'm
blanked
talking
out
about
right
two
there.
people. Better. Oh,
Okay.
okay. I don't know what happened there, but I'm a server in like what, and this is just for the average Joe, not
Yeah, let's bring it back down to our level.
believer.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in that. You know what? You do a test run. You move in together because you don't know the
Really?
person. Yeah, I 100% I believe that and I know it's a new school way of thinking, is very modern, but
Mhm.
again, it's just one of those things where I truly believe you don't know the person until you live with them for a year. Like it's different when you're in. You come to my house. It's kind of like my rules. I go to your house. It's kind of your rules. Like what I mean. Like we kind of, even though we're together, we kind of you know it's like you like certain things, certain places, and they know that. So when they get to know you, they just adapt to that. And when you go to
Mhm.
their house, it's the same thing. It's like, what, I don't like a cup laying around. Just put in the sink or the dishwasher and the story. Like what I mean.
Mhm.
Like one shot. Don't leave it on the counter. Or, like what I mean. Or
Mhm.
so it's just kind of like they know just to do that. You have your little idiosyncrasies that and habits and
Mhm.
quirks that you have. So you know
See,
when you go to their house, you do that.
this is where I don't agree with that because I think you can get a sense of a person and how they do things and what they're comfortable with. And if you can be in their presence,
Personal space.
in their personal
Yeah.
space and feel comfortable, I think that's what you need. Then
But you see, that's
no, no,
you
no,
gotta
but
remember
here I just
something.
had a conversation the other day about arranged marriages, and I think us, this North American way of thinking, this idea of I'm gonna date and see how I feel. And I've done it where you talking to someone, you go on a date, and it's like, oh goodness, up, up, up. And then the next day or the next conversation or the next meetup, it's like, oh God. And then it's like a negative. And then,
Right.
okay, but no, 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 he redeemed himself. And then it's back up. And it's like this roller coaster thing. And that in itself
But
shows
why
you
you
that,
need to live with the person?
mm-mm. I think,
That's exactly why you. You know what? Because you got to remember something. I don't live with you. You get on my nerves today. I don't have to talk to you. I could send you a text and say, "Hey, you know what? Just going to bed, whatever it is." Because you still have to be accountable to the person you're dating and seeing, right? You still have to. There still has to be that communication level. You just can't go 3, 4 days and not talk to that person because they annoyed you. So
mhm.
you can send a text, "Hey, I'm coming home. I'm home. I'm really tired. I'll talk to you tomorrow."
Okay, so explain
You know what I
living with
mean?
someone
How are
though.
you? How
Can
is your
can
day? Have
this can does this mean you could be for 3 days straight and that's living with them and that's getting a sense of how things are? Or a week, 5 days? Like,
no,
is that
but no, not
a
living.
year?
I'm telling you, need to minimum a year because you know what?
Yeah,
It's one of those
I don't have
things
that
where,
kind of I don't have that kind of time. I mean, and I don't think anybody should invest that kind of time with
well,
every
no, but
person they
listen to
date.
me. Listen to me. Give me a sec,
Mhm.
right? If you when you live with somebody, that excels the time of relationship because you got to remember the normal average relationship will see the person 2, 3 times a week and then you live your life,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? The normal average, right? Now, when time is put in, of course you have your away time, but then you have dinner, you have shopping, you have, you know, you guys clean together or like, all those things, like you get up, you may have different times. So you start to see the real habits because you got to remember, we adjust ourselves,
Mhm.
but that 3, 4 months nicety period, beautiful and sex is amazing. You know what I mean? Like you're enjoying the person's company. If you're deciding that you're gonna live with, I mean, you're gonna actually spend the rest, you got to start knowing the uncomfortable side. And the
Mhm.
only way to get the real dynamic is to live with that person as a trial run. Because I guarantee you, when you start living and you're in an argument, you're going to see the real habit of how they are. They don't
Mhm.
have to separate from you. They got to come home.
Mhm.
You are going to sleep together. You know what I mean? You're going to see, you know what? All right, guy isn't this clean, or this girl isn't this clean. She
Mhm.
actually, throws her stuff on the ground. This
Mhm.
when I'm at her house is spotless because she did that 20-minute cleanup ahead of time,
Right. And now
right?
you see the real.
All this starts coming out, and all these pressures. I mean, all the nicety starts going out the window. I believe nowadays, and again, I've alluded to this before, and I know you don't agree with it, but you know, I said there's a role model change. Women are becoming the breadwinners now, so they have a more of a male mentality in terms of, yeah, like, I make my own money, my own things and stuff of that nature. So the arguments are different.
Mm.
It's
See,
not like,
I think, but and this is, and all this supports how what I've, because I was having this discussion the other day, and I've talked about this, and it's like those are the things I think. You don't necessarily have to live with a person to be around them. You can say spend time, and then you'll pick up on their habits and stuff. Just observe.
But that's what I'm
Then
saying, though. But
no, 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 but
yeah,
I don't know about this whole 6 month to year living
no,
and
but think
no, no,
about it
no.
though.
And then,
When
but listen, but my point, my bigger point to that is this is why I think, because you can listen, we've heard the stories, we've seen situations where people have been together 10 years, 20 years, and that you still don't know. You look at what's her face's what what's Jenner, Bruce Jenner,
Yeah.
and okay, how long were they married? They were married forever, and I don't
Yeah.
know what was in Chris's
Well,
head,
you gotta mention that me that I know that
but
people
that
are gonna
but
lash out.
they
That was a mental illness. That I know that's who he was, but that is just that was a person living in secret. He was a very good actor, and
okay,
he could
and guess what?
this
That's a
mental
very
illness.
public example, but there are many
Yeah,
examples of people who, I mean, serial murderers and rapists
yeah, but
that
that's
have
we're not
spouses and
that
families that
no.
had no clue. You know,
Yeah,
when they took
but those people
vacation,
act. They're not. Those people are
they're
covered. You
not
gotta remember,
normal.
marriage. Those people are,
Okay, I
yeah, they're
under
covered. Those are covers. You know what I
okay.
mean? They're,
And
it's
then there are other examples of people who have a whole other like family with children on the other side of town.
yeah,
You
but we're
so
not
what
talking.
I'm
But that's
saying
not the
is
that ain't the average
okay.
Joe. Those again, those are covers, and those are people
Okay, okay,
that
let
are
me bring it
self.
back to the
Yeah,
average Joe. There's a lot of people that have little habits that are outside of the home that can affect your life and
of
your marriage
course,
and your family, but
of
you
course.
don't necessarily see them. So your world can come crashing down after 10 years of investing and working
Of
together and
course.
living together. So this 1 year of let me just see how you are around me, it's they can still pull it off. And there are people that can pull it off for 10 years until it cannot be done anymore. So what I'm trying,
But you see, I don't believe that's what it is because you got to remember something. The dynamic that we haven't touched on is that we change every 5 to 7 years. So when we change, so do our needs. Don't change,
I don't think
and
it's
then
that
some people get
drastic.
outgrown. Huh?
I don't think it's that drastic. And
No,
here's my thing
we
though.
do change.
This is
Fine. Look, I was with a woman for 9.5 years. I was with another woman for 7.5 years. We outgrew each other. We didn't become friends again.
so
Grow up.
here, okay. No, no, go ahead,
I
finish
didn't
that
grow up
thought.
for my 7.5 years. You know what? I didn't grow at the pace that she needed. She said, like I'll tell you, like when I took my first loss, I'll get very personal here.
Hmm.
Um, what happened was that we both agreed that we should separate because what happened is that it became very I guess the word like
Don't say
we became what's the lack of a better term, but we became disenfranchised
okay.
of she, you know what? I was working, I was hustling, I took a hit,
Hmm.
and then for her, I don't think I met her security, and I got resentment because I was like, oh, so you're really not with me because you were there because of my success or the security of it.
What I could
Because
provide.
she told me point blank, she doesn't believe that, and I've posted about this before, where I said a lot of people are in relationships for help, not necessarily to
Hmm.
be in a relationship with you.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what happened when she told me point blank. She said to me, "You'll never be able to provide me with the lifestyle that I want
Mm,
because I took a hit in life.
mm,
I made an investment and made a wrong move, and she was used to a certain lifestyle, and I guess she got used to that lifestyle, and she saw me as that vehicle
hmm.
versus the met for being with a man. And when she told me that, I just got resentment. I was like, wow, like you know what I mean? So it's really not because of me we're in a relationship, even though it wasn't presented that way, right?
Hmm.
So I never matured at the rate that she wanted or
Hmm.
needed, and I can sustain the lifestyle, right? At the
Hmm.
time, we were younger, right? So it was just one of those things where she had a certain image in her mind. She thought this was what it was, and she wasn't there for the long haul. My 9.5 years, we just didn't become friends again. Like we stopped being friends, and it got disrespectful, and that was both not who we were. So yes, you know what? You change every 5 to 7 years, and with my 9.5, that as done, I was at the point where I bought the ring, ready to do it. As planning for it. Her birthday was coming up in December. I said, okay, this is it. I, that year, August, it was like we're on our way out. By September, it was a wrap.
Wow.
So it's like we change every 5 to 7 years, and then this is just my personal experience.
Well, I
And
will say,
you know,
sorry, finish that thought.
no, no, no.
that that's good enough. But I
Sorry, I
mean,
hate when I do that. No, but what
yeah,
I think, and I mean, something you just said made me think like, okay, that's another way to look at it when you said the vehicle versus the man. But my thing is, I've always said marriage has to be bigger than your feelings and even your
and
friendship
yourself.
and your emotions. It has to, like, you're entering into an agreement. There's a contract, there are investments. You can't just say,
But that's
I'm
the
not
point.
feeling you
That's
anymore.
um,
I'm not feeling this anymore. I'm not feeling this. Like that, once you say, you have to look at marriage as a build, like something you build. And I think that's why a lot of people, I honestly think they should not get married. And if
but
you
you gotta
can't
remember
get to the
something.
point, if you can't get to the point of seeing it bigger than yourselves, bigger than your own individual feelings, and whether or not you wake up and like this person for a week straight or not,
You have to look at the motivation. You
say
have
that
to
again.
look at the motivation why they're getting married, because a lot of you have to look at the motivation of why they're getting married.
Well, and let me
And
say
just the
this.
problem. The problem is that a lot of people look at it, view it as a contract, versus a union. They get married to the institution of marriage versus getting married to the man or woman. They get married to the idea of being in love and falling in love, but not really being in love. It's security. Oh, he can provide me this. Like, as I said, like, you know what? It's people nowadays. It's it's not about being in love, falling in love, and walking in the same direction. They don't have the honest communication that you know people used to have, like, prior to our age group. You know, even though I'm 28 forever, but prior to our age group, they don't have patience. They don't go in there knowing, all right, you know what? What's your credit score? What's your debt load? You know, not to say that you should be about that, but the fact remains is then you get into this
That's a part
relationship.
of it,
This
though.
person is 100 grand or yeah, but
In
I'm
debt,
saying is
yeah,
they don't have these conversations, and then you
exactly.
find out this person has an $80,000 debt load, but the couple can't dig yourself out and make the proper moves that were. So then now financial problems are part of your marriage. People
And
are getting
that's
married. They're in love with the idea of getting married and the idea of getting married and being in love with the idea of being in love. And then what happens is when reality hits them and they're living together, they find out, oh, with you, and reality kicks in. That's why when the in love stage needs to be dealt with that person, it goes back to supporting my point, what I'm saying. You said that in love needs to wear off, stage needs to wear off, and then you got to see whether, I can live with these people's bad habits. You know, is that person does that person, play music at 5 o'clock in the morning when I need to sleep? Those are
and
the
these are
toilet
all
seat
things
up.
you can learn
It's all
about a
this.
person without living with
No, you
them. Me,
can't.
I am not.
No, you
Me,
can't.
well, let me tell you something.
It's
I think so. And here's my thing though is I think I would never support okay, you can't just look at it as a business, an agreement, a contract. And you can't go that far to the right and then you can't go far to the left and be like I love and I feel and I this and I that and passion and all that stuff because both of those things like you need to be somewhere in the middle where they balance each other and they both because when
It has to make
one
sense.
when you love someone enough and you have like you can look at a person or you care about a person and you've had experiences where this person has been for you and you've bonded, then when you're going through the tough times, that's what carries you through that feeling of this is my friend, this is my best friend, this is my
But
mate.
that's a
And
romantic notion.
no, it's
That's
not.
a
It's
romantic
just as
notion.
it's
It is.
just as if, and I'm not going to say it's the same bond necessarily as a
Yeah.
mother and child, but when you take on somebody and your souls blend and this you have this there are people in my life that I am no longer with, but I love that person. Like I want the best for that person. And
Yeah.
if that person was to reach out to me and say, listen, this happened to me, or one of my family members is sick or something, I would feel it for that person, and I would be there for that person. It's not just because we have a title or we're together or not, because as long as like we were real and we have that bond, and there are people I still have a bond with, I don't have a relationship with, but I have a bond with. And so this
With
is
them, yeah.
where I know there's true love. That, and I have female friends that, you know what, no, we don't speak every day, we don't see each other all the time, but Lord knows, like, if they hurt, I'm gonna hurt, because we have a bond. Now that's one thing. On the flip side though, if I'm in a relationship though, and I have a commitment to things, and then that commitment also um keeps me with that person. So I think, like, I think that's what you need for a marriage to work, is you do have a strong love and a bond and a respect, and just that has you wanting to be in that person's life. You want to do for that person. You want to make a proper meal for that person. You want to nurse them when they're sick, like, just because, not out of obligation, just because you look at that person and you have that desire to do it. And then
Thank
on
you,
the
though.
flip
You got
side, but there are
yeah.
people that you might have some feelings like that with, but guess what? You know
But your
that if you were
relationship's
to
not
blend your
tested.
finances with them, they would run you right under, and you would be bankrupt in a few years. So you know that, yo, I feel you like that, but I know that you're not the partner for me though. Like, I would never go into business with you. Therefore, I can't
Right,
go
but
into
that's my
life with you.
point, though. But we're talking about what to say is the idiosyncrasies that the intangible idiosyncrasies that you have, and when that nice goes out the window, when the in love stage is gone, that is when your relationship
In
is
love
tested.
never
People are
goes.
not
I
going to,
think lovey-dovey, all that can
of course,
fade and like,
of
but
course. No, listen, you can be
in
affectionate.
love, that doesn't go.
Listen, you can be affectionate, but love wears off with
No, affection
circumstance.
and
I'm not
attraction can
talking
wear
about.
off, but
I'm not
love,
talking about. I'm not talking about love. I'm talking about that in love feeling. That lovey dovey comes and goes with circumstance. Something that's tried, true, and tested over a series of time, where an emotional, it becomes that.
exactly.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when your love, actual love, friendship, and relationship is tested because of the exterior factors, friends, family, finances, lifestyle, all those things. Can now 3, 4 months into that relationship, and then all the nice goes out, is sucked out of that situation. You know what? You're not in love with the idea of living together. You're now actually living a marriage. Because let's face it, you don't. Method Man said it best. You don't need a ring to be my wife. All right, and I've alluded to
No,
that
but it would
before.
be
So people need
nice.
to listen to that song and break down that
I
song.
love it. Yeah,
But at the end of the
it's
day,
yep.
what it comes down to is that you need to test your relationship. You need to, and you will not find out how nice I am or how grumpy I am until you live
I don't
change. As
agree.
I
I
said,
don't agree. That's like
okay,
people, they
well,
pass their
well,
driving test, they have their license, and there's a lot of BS drivers on the road right now. They
right,
could
but
You
that's
could
my
pass your
point.
test for a year, you
But
could do the
you just
graduated
proved my
license
point.
system. Exactly. So to me, you have to commit. So if I say, okay, we're gonna buy a car together, once you get your license and we get that car together, what? Okay, I got my license. So that doesn't mean, okay, I passed the year test. That doesn't mean, like, my point
But again,
is
there's other
a
things. But I'm talking
commitment.
about
I think the word commitment, and I look at these people who go into relationships, go into marriage, go into parenting, into situations where they're going to co-parent, and decide, "Mm, I'm not feeling this anymore." Even after they did a test run, there are people. For instance, oh my gosh, who did I just see? Oh man, I saw another really. They are together forever. And even this Latoya Luckett one, I can use that as an example. They were together for over a year. They were together. I don't know their living arrangement or anything like that, but they were traveling. They were doing things. He was supporting her. She was like this. And as soon as they get married, and then all of a sudden they can't make it. And to me, though, you the commitment part of things is what people are failing to commit to. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
I think
you
there are
remember?
too many um just losers, like people who give up on things. And I'm thinking that is not something you give up on. And whether you had a year in or living experience, I just think you make that commitment, you stick with it. Unless that person
Well,
is
remember
stabbing you in your sleep at night, you didn't know they have this crazy habit. Like, I mean, I don't know, but what what could you not
again.
know about a
Remember
person
again.
before you
It's
commit?
completely. I don't know if you actually listened to what I was saying to you in terms
I
of
did,
no,
and it
no,
made
no. I'm
a
saying
lot of sense.
well, I'm saying it's just when the nice is sucked out of that relationship and the norm has set in. Real, real hidden. Like again, you got to remember your relationship gets excelled when you live with somebody for a year. It's like 4 years added into a common relationship because you're with that person every day.
Mhm.
So that relationship now has become
Well,
a
then
40
that to me,
relationship.
you don't need more than a month then. Do it for a month and see what the person, you can't fake it for a month, or you can, and if you
Again,
can,
again, but no, no, you can because you know what? Again, at that stage is the honeymoon phase. Sex is the best. You can't get enough of the person. You're cooking for each other. You're doing
what
all
I
these things,
mean though
all that stuff.
is, no, what I mean
Go beyond.
though is your daily habits. That's what living together, who the person
Yes,
is.
but you got to remember,
You
you're
even spoke
forgetting
on that.
the point.
Who the person is now is not necessarily who the person is going to be and or should be in 5 to
Five to
7
7 years
years.
from now.
So
What I'm trying to say
it
is,
doesn't, so no, 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 no. My point is you can get to know someone inside and out for 5 years,
no, you
and
can't.
then they
No, you
grow.
can't.
And if you're not committing to growing together or at least understanding each other, then that's where you're going to fail, because one is going to outgrow the other. One is going to grow away from the other. But you have to commit to that, understanding that, you know what, even if I change a little, even if I have a different dream, even if I want to give up this, 6-figure job to pursue my real passion, are you going to be with me? Are you with me? You know what I mean? Or can we pad up our
And it's the
account?
motivation. It's the
Can we pat
motivation. You got to find people that love like you do, and that's
right?
the
And
part of it. We're
that's the
not getting.
key. That's the key. And you'll
Yeah.
never know who someone's going to be for 40 years. Like these people who are married for 30, 40 years, they can look back and say, listen, this is not who I
Well,
married for
there's
40 years.
different though.
But I
Listen,
committed to
the
being
days of
married
the
to this
days of
person.
the days of
Say
30,
it. Let me
40,
hear it.
50 years
Are
are
over.
not. No, no,
Wow.
I'm not saying are over. No, this is what I'm saying carefully.
Mhm.
Just like, you know what, it used to be that one person stays at a job for 20, 30, 40, 50 years till they retire.
Mhm.
Those days are over because we're now, our attention span is now shorter.
Wow.
Our consistency level is now shorter.
Wow.
Marriages now, because of the dynamic of, again, the dynamic of relationships have changed,
Mhm.
or dynamic of the man woman, women becoming more breadwinners, that has changed the consistency, the level of, like, you know what, a lot of people got married out of necessity and made it work. You know what, I'm sure you've seen those memes that said, you know what, we come from a time, the reason, we come from a time where we didn't throw things out, we fixed them. Now is, now we know, as soon as something doesn't work, we
You
just go buy a
replace
new
it.
one. They're manufactured cheap, right? But
Yep.
it's also that it's like we don't get into relationships with the idea that, you know what, and I not alluded, I stated this last week
Mhm.
on the show. If you recall, I said, you know what, you should not have a different bank account.
Mhm.
Your money should be their money,
I agree.
right?
Mhm.
All those things, like, because what happens in your mind, you're already setting yourself for failure when you're putting away, you're stashing little money, and a lot of couples do it.
Mhm.
They have their joint account, and then what they have is they have their secret bank account, and then they have their own account, because
Yep.
they're like, all right, this doesn't work out, I'm not going to be
Just
asked
in
out,
case.
I'm not going to,
Exactly.
you know what,
Exactly.
and right, case, and already setting themselves up, they haven't committed
Mhm.
to that marriage, and the commitment level is not there anymore. So it's not that marriages are not working, it's that we're not committing as to each other as
And
solidity. But
that's
at the
what we
same
agree
time,
on. Mhm.
we're not doing the things and having the conversations that we need and taking the steps, to have these relationships last. It's like, again, the small thing, or the major thing is how not to emasculate your man and breathe life into your man, and to support your woman,
Mhm.
and you know you haven't brought children into effect yet. Like, my idea of
Mhm.
how, I may be like, and I believe you do not spare the rod. You know, you whip your child's ass, but not for everything. I'm
We're gonna
saying
talk
that
about that on
I
another
believe,
show. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know what? But there's a lot of people out there. I believe in consequences first. I don't think you
Yes.
spank a child for not knowing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and or they have to have a healthy fear in order to be raised and trained right.
Mhm.
Because with children, if you let them wild, they'll be wild and they'll do wild things, right? So I
Mhm.
believe that they need to have a healthy fear of you. Not you spank your child out of frustration, or you beat your
Right.
child out of beat them at every little thing. But they got to know that, hey, what, mess up. There's a consequence to it, and I believe in consequences in terms of, what, first, it's like kind of like, all right, you remember, you want to go to this party, but you remember when I asked you to do this
Right.
and you didn't do it, as much as to let you go to this party now,
Mhm.
you now have a penance that you got to pay.
Mhm.
If they hear that and they go out, guess what? You coming home to an ass kicking.
Mm.
I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, because now you straight respect you.
Disrespect.
But
Yeah.
you, all right, but and so you don't have that healthy fear of me. But you, on the other hand, may not believe in beating your child. Period.
Mhm.
Else is
It's
grounds
an issue.
for divorce in terms of,
Mhm.
yeah, because you're gonna take up for that child, and then that child is gonna, it's gonna obviously gonna side with you, the discipliner, and then what's gonna
Mhm.
happen is we're gonna pit each other. We're gonna be pitted against each other, and you have that stress.
Have issues there.
And it's
Yep.
just the same thing with money. It's like, what, right? So it's all these things. Like, we have to have these conversations. You bust your child's ass. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. This is why I don't. Can we agree? Yes. All right, then you're not the one for me, right? You have to have
And
these.
this is it. And that's a perfect example of that's something you cannot possibly know if you go into a situation you do not have children already, and that is to come. Because I don't imagine that's going to happen with a toddler and infant. So that's
But you
years
will
down
have the
but you have
conversations
the
over dinner
conversations
with your.
exactly. And I think,
But you will have. No,
but
but
this is
you
what
got to
I'm
remember
saying. That's
something.
a
But
part of getting to know each other too. And I know a big part
no,
of it
but
is
the
actually
dynamic, you
being
won't
like,
have
I mean,
that
there's the
conversation.
theory, there's the practical. Mhm.
Karen, you won't have those conversations unless you are thinking about getting together, married. When you're in a
No, but you know
relationship,
what?
right?
If you're thinking there, listen, I know people who drill, like there are some people I know, some women and men who they have questions, they have lists. They're like, yo, I ask questions. I ask questions
But you
before you
won't
even
have.
get.
But I'm saying this: if you think about it, though, if you want to find out if you want to be with that person, live with that person, you have certain conversations that you will never have unless that comfortability is out of the way. I'm saying this: when if I'm living with you and we're sitting across the thing, my mindset is we're doing this to advance. Okay, if I'm moving in with you, if I'm thinking about being with you, it's not, oh, you're my girlfriend, I'm
Right.
potential my wife. So I was saying about, oh, do you believe in busting your child's ass? If you know what, if we're boyfriend and girlfriend, you're still in that boyfriend girlfriend stage. The minute we move in, the dialogue and dynamics of our conversations now change. They move to more serious things.
I don't think it has to
Comes
be
out,
like that though.
hey,
And you know what? I'm going to tell you something about myself. And obviously, like there is change happens over time. It's natural. However, I can honestly say, and I think anybody that knows me, any man I've talked to can say, you know what? This girl's been who she's been from day one, day 101, day 501. Like no, and you may not understand, but I don't believe in putting on this act to get someone. I don't believe in doing things in order to get things. I believe in this
that's
is
it.
who I am.
Yeah.
This is what I'm not going to do right now. This is what I don't do. This is what I do. And because I learned at a very young age, like be as authentic as you can because you have to maintain that. And unless you are a liar and you want to live a disguised life and play this role to get something and then switch up, I can't do that. And I don't live that kind of pressure. And I'm like that with anybody. I'm even like that with like on job interviews. I was always this very, very realistic with people and my expectations and my abilities and all this good stuff. Because to me, I think it's just it's putting some crazy unnecessary pressure on yourself to, and there hasn't been the man. Maybe if there was a certain opportunity with a certain type of man that I felt like I had to put on this act to get, like, I don't know. So, but for just someone that I was just interested in for who he was, and which that's what I'm about. um I felt it was always very necessary for him to know who I am, to hear how I laugh, to just see hear my, my crazy ideas, um, my not so popular take on certain things. Like, I just think this is who I am. And I can't, and if we're not gonna move in that direction, then like let it be based on the truth from the get-go. And I just can't fake it in order to say I want you in my
Well, like
life,
I said,
because you are
I
not the
don't.
man that should be in my life if you can't take the authentic me. You know what I mean? So I yeah.
Well, I know what. As I think that, personally, and I truly strive to live out authentic, being as authentic as possible. As I said,
Yes.
I do have a sort of filter, but I will tell you exactly. I guess I have, what's the word? Sorry. Well,
I don't know.
like I do have like I have a filter, but I'll tell you
Oh,
honestly
okay.
what
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the word? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't, just bold facedly tell you. Like, for instance, you know what? If you ask me if you're overweight or whatever it is,
You're not gonna
yeah,
lie
yeah,
about
you're
it, but you're
fat.
not gonna. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I'm not gonna say you're fat and, what I mean, and slobby or something of that nature. I'll say, you know what? Yeah, you know what? You are overweight and you could do to lose some weight. But, I do put a filter on it. But I will be honest with you,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
I'm not the person that you ask for the truth. Like, you don't ask unless you want the truth.
Right.
I will give you the
Yep.
truth,
Yep. I'm pretty much the same
right?
way.
So
Hmm.
I do live authentic, but I
Hmm.
don't believe that I live. I expose myself to everybody.
No, and
You get what I'm saying?
I expose as much as I need to or am comfortable with, as
Want
we
to know?
as we
Yes.
as we go along, and as I'm sure you do too. And then as you go a little deeper and a little further, then you open up whatever, and but yeah, I think we're basically saying the same thing. We just have different strategy. And I think the living part, though, to me, nah, I'm not for that one though, because I think it's just
Well, I
I
mean,
just and
but the
that's just
problem, the
me,
problem.
and a lot of
Yeah.
people disagree with me. I know a lot of people in this day and age, like male, female friends, they think I'm crazy for how, but that's me. And
Well, I'm gonna say it like this, right?
don't you dare, yeah, go ahead. I hear the wind. Where are you outside now? Say it.
No, no, I'm carved. But it's very simple. If
Yeah.
I'm looking to live the rest of my life with you,
Yeah.
best believe I'm gonna test drive that car. You know what I mean? Like, I go to a car, I'm gonna test
Yeah.
drive that car first before I commit to it. I'm gonna rent a car, and it's exactly the same idea. You know what? Before you ever cut yourself in an operation, the doctor said we gotta cut. You go get two more opinions before
Hmm.
you go buy a house. You go look at that house.
Hmm.
Test your situations, and that also includes relationships. You need to
Mm.
test it. And again, that excels. The reason I'm saying this, like, what happens is you excel your relationship when you live with that person.
But here's the
That
difference.
relationship,
I'm gonna
that 1 year, it equals to 4 years or 5 years in a relationship. That's what happens when you live with that person.
but here's the
You get to
difference
see the habits that you don't see.
between you
Yeah,
making a decision of a car, a house, even a doctor. The difference is
you can
there
take
are
it a minute.
two people making a decision. And that's
Right.
the difference there is the word commitment. And so both have to say, you know what, um, you have to commit. You have to commit to something. There has to be like that one thing that, you know what, when all else around us is chaotic and when all else seems like it's falling and all else doesn't seem as shiny and nice and exciting as it was, we have to go back to this one thing right there in the middle, the one reason and the thing that we committed to. And if you can't find something that you both um, can commit to, then
Hmm.
don't do it. Don't do it. If there isn't that one thing
You
that's
see,
gonna
and that's
hold,
funny.
when
And she
I
just
dated
brought something to
someone
mind, though.
and I said to him, and I'll never forget this, and I said, my take on marriage is when you're married and you have children, I think um, you're locked in until these children are old enough to like they're
Nah,
adults basically. And he was like,
nah.
yeah, I don't know about that. And you know what? Ever since he said, I was like, yeah, I don't know about you because then we're different. And I'm like, no, we could no, you sleep upstairs, I sleep downstairs, whatever it is. But and we don't need to be but we have to commit to running a household, to having two parents in the home and not something up. And he was like, yeah, I don't know about that. I was
No,
like, then you
children.
can't commit to that.
Not
You can't commit
listen.
to that. So then
Yeah.
forget it.
Well, what it comes down to, you're talking about commitment, and what it comes down to, you first have to commit to yourself, then you have to commit to your marriage.
Mhm.
What it comes down to, you have to be happy. There has to be a union. As I said, my woman has to be my peace. The woman that I take on
Yes.
has to be my peace.
Mhm.
That is the first thing. If the minute you disrupt my peace, you are no longer the woman with me. And no child, no hell, or no high water is going to keep me there,
Mhm.
no matter what. The
Mhm.
minute you don't become my peace, you're not my friend, you're not the person you become the person I'm not supposed to be with. Children can function without a household. It's nice, but I'm in a stage of, this is real life.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm not. I don't deal with fairy tales or romantic notions. I
Mhm.
deal with real life, and you have to find people that love like you do. I believe in that. I think that I wholeheartedly that, not everybody's meant to be together, and believe it or not, is meant to be in a relationship. If you do not know how to be in a relationship, then you
Mhm.
are meant to be single. And then some
Yeah.
people just outgrow each other, and it happens. This is life. It's not. I'm not into fairy tales, not into romantic notions.
Mhm.
And you know what? I was trying to say that happen, right? You have, the job say you have three faces. I'm reading this now. The first
Mhm.
face, you show the world. The
Mhm.
second face, you show your close friends and your family. The
Mm.
third, you never show anyone. It is the truest reflection of who you are,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Having stated that, when you live with the person, the potential of the truest person you are comes out eventually,
Mhm.
right? Just like Jenner, it took how many umpteen years, right? But
Mhm.
his true self came out. It may have been acquired over time, but then his true self eventually came out. When you live with somebody, you sit there and you recognize and realize who that person is, whether you love the same, whether and I'm not talking about when you were getting married to somebody, you were getting married to the present person.
Mhm.
Now, the intention should be, because not always is to, as I say, how does the saying says, to having to hold
For
for,
life. Oh.
for better or worse to death do us
Mhm.
part,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of people get into a relationship with that intention, but then do not have the capacity to uphold that because whether they're immature, whether they rush into too fast, whether real life happened, all these things are factors. So
Mhm.
in order for you to truly understand if you have that capacity, it goes back to what I was saying, that relationship, live with that person. You're there with that person after 8 hours. You should be with that person on daily interest. You know what? I like to have my peoples over for dinner, but you're a solitude person. Yeah, it's cool because you're coming to my house and my peoples are over. But when it's our house, you love pink. I don't.
Yeah. And I think these are all things that can come out without
But no, but they
a
don't come
test
out.
run.
They don't come out. They don't come out in conversations. In a restaurant over dinner. They come out in conversations when you live with that person, having dinner at the table.
Or you
It's
could
like,
be
all right,
wrapped
how
up
was that
on a
feeling? Ah,
weekend and you just having talks because you want to get
but
to
you,
know
but I'm
the
saying
things
if you
that are
don't
important
think,
to you.
no, but that's my point though. If you're thinking about living with somebody, you don't think about those conversations until you are living with that person or moving into that
And that's a
relationship.
problem. That's a
Saying
problem.
that's my point, but that's
You
the
don't
majority of people don't think that. You don't
you
think
know,
that
you
you
go
don't.
to a job interview and they say, "You have any questions for me?" I mean, that's when you have your questions. This is when you ask about
Right.
vacation time. This is when you ask, "Gail, when do my benefits kick in?" You don't go into it, accept it, and then say, "Oh, by the way, what? 1 week
Right.
vacation?" No, you should have asked that question before. And there are opportunities to ask about it
But
because if
you won't
you
have.
are
But you're not. You're
entertaining the thought
hearing.
of being
You're not hearing
committed to a job
what I'm
or
saying, Karen.
going into
I
a
mean, Casey.
school,
Sorry.
committing to a 4-year
You're not
program or
listening to
something.
what I'm saying. Then, because
I
you know what?
am, but I'm saying
No, but you
I
are. Then
personally
you. Then
don't
you're not.
think you
You're
need
not
to
listening
live with
to
someone to
understand
ask the
what I'm
tough
saying.
questions or the real questions. That's
Then
what
to
I'm
understand
saying.
what I'm saying.
I
But you're not
totally
listening to
am.
what I'm talking about.
But I
No, because
understand what you're
you know
saying.
what? You
I'm
just
saying
alluded.
I understand that for you. I just don't agree with that for me. But I'm not saying
Okay.
that you shouldn't do that. And I'm not saying that doesn't work for you or
Oh
it
well.
doesn't work for others. I
Yeah.
personally am not doing it. And I wouldn't do it. That's just me.
Well, as I said. Well, as I said, in this day and age,
Yeah.
we'll put it this way: we're both, or at least from far as I know. So I guess our methods. How did that work out for both of us?
I knew you were going to
Right.
come with
But the
that,
fact
but
remains is that. Yeah, but no. But I'm saying it at the end of the day, though. You know what? Have been have all been super long term. I've never been in a relationship. When I get in a relationship, I've never been in a relationship that has lasted less than 4.5 years.
Mhm,
Right? And my longest 9.5 years.
mhm.
Because of who I am as a person and the little I guess the little tricks or things that I picked up have allowed me to afford those relationships. So when it comes down to it, you know what? Knowing now all of this, now I realize that these are the things that mechanisms I need to build in place because the next relationship with all the tools I've acquired, now I can build a house. Before I could, frame a house. I could put the shingles on. But now I can build a whole entire house in one shot because I've acquired these things. Right? And as you said, it may work for me. But what I have to say to you is maybe you need to try something different. Maybe I need to try. I've tried your way and I realized that your way has not worked for me.
And I think my way has
Right?
worked for me. It has. It's worked for me in
Well,
more than
at the
one
end of the day,
way.
well,
Yeah.
if you're married, if you can say that we're both in the same spot, we're both in the same position, but now what I'm trying to say is that I know from being on your side of it that it has to share your mentality. I know
No,
now
but I'm
that all
telling
these
you,
little
it has worked for
mechanisms.
me.
But are you married right now?
But that's not the point. The point is it has worked for me.
No, no,
It
no. That
has.
is the point. The point is both not in relationships. We're both at the same thing. But now I know for a fact with all these mechanisms, I know what I'm looking for and how to acquire it and what will work for me.
But I think you're saying the same thing that
You're
it
still
has worked for you as well. Because
because I'm not married, but I know now that it will. I know what will allow a marriage to work for me.
but
That's what I'm
you
trying to say
also
is that
avoided marriage with people that it probably wasn't the best uh it wouldn't have been the best decision for you guys. So you
right,
living with someone
but because I didn't
has
have these mechanisms in place, because I shared, what as I said, I didn't have these mechanisms in place. I didn't know to have these conversations. I didn't know to live with the person outside of that. So it's
okay.
all these little things that
See, I was looking at it the other way. I thought
I've
you living with people actually showed you that you should not marry. certain people that you
No,
meet?
I've never lived with a woman, but now I do realize
Oh, okay,
that I need to
okay.
live with a woman in order to
Ah,
see
okay,
who she
okay,
is.
okay, okay, okay. I got
That's
you.
the point I'm trying to say is that me not living with a woman, you know, like like at one point it was like, you know what, there was out like, you know, in one of my relationships, she was basically living there. She's there almost every day,
Yeah.
right? But it still was for hours, right? And it still wasn't the same
Mhm.
until, and this is what clicked in, until there was a 2 week stint that she lived with me
Mhm.
and things I never saw before.
Mm. Mhm.
That's what made me click in. That's how I acquired this mechanism. I
2
was like,
weeks,
all right, this,
exactly. So do
no,
that for a
no, but
month and you're doing
hold
good.
on, hold on. But the 2 weeks opened the doorway, did not open, did not let me in.
Yeah.
I didn't see, you know what? I could see a crack in the door of light, but I can see what was on the other side of the door. So
Oh,
don't
Lord.
bother with that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
point. So it wasn't until, you know, she stayed with me for 2 weeks because her house was being renovated and painted and stuff of that nature. And then, you
Right.
know, she stayed with me for 2 weeks. I started seeing that. I was like, oh. And then when the nights went out,
Yeah.
you know, like, right? So
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
point. And we were together for years. We were together for 4.5 years.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't know who she was until I didn't really know. I didn't get a grasp or a idea
mm,
for a girl that I saw for 3, 4 times a week. I didn't know who she was until she actually stayed with me.
mhm.
You know, I didn't know that when she comes in, she slams the door, which
Mm,
annoyed the,
mhm,
right? Because usually
mhm,
when it's my key, I'm walking in, I'm the one opening up my door and I let her in, and you know what I mean, stuff of that nature. When she had her own key and she was walking in, she slams the doors.
mhm,
You know, she walked inside the house with her shoes on
mhm, mhm.
because
No, I
it was.
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is these small things that you will never acquire because when they're coming into your space, it's kind of your rules. They automatically know to take off their shoes if that's what your thing is. And I don't want to make myself sound as a control freak because I'm really not. But there's just certain things that you know that I have quirks that you know, and I think they're just West Indian
And
things,
there's nothing wrong with that.
right?
And I think that is something that I remember having conversations like that with American guys that I knew and met and talked to. And I would say, wow, you guys, and I'd say, well, that couldn't happen with me. And I mean, there are ways to let things out. And I mean, that's just one
But you
small
won't know
example.
those things though.
But I
But
think,
you won't know those things
no, but
because when
you
you're
have
walking your house, like
because these
for
are,
instance, if I walk in my house and I take off my shoes first, and my shoes are lined up in a foyer, and then open your door, you naturally go in first, right? And you hold the door open and you go. I have a double door, so I open my first door and then I go open my second door. I go take off my shoes automatically, so obviously she kicks off her shoes.
yeah, but then listen, this is a very minor one, but it's not a small thing because I do not believe in walking past that doorway with shoes on. Like, no. And but my thing is that's something that it could spark problems if someone thinks that they could be walking through the house and the other person doesn't believe it. And so something as small as that could be a big problem. You're making
But
so
see,
much
that's
noise.
that's my point. Why
But
you need to live with somebody,
but
but it's
it's
not.
something, and that's what I'm saying. Something small like that. Yeah, okay, she's gonna follow your lead, but she might say, "Oh my God, you take your shoes off? I don't take my shoes off at home." And be like, "Well, guess what? If we were living together, you'd be taking your shoes off. Oh, whatever. No, you'd be taking. Okay, and then
But
you can get a sense of okay, there's a little friction here, or it's just
but
how
no,
you
but you got
guys
to
make
remember something.
decisions. So
That's not.
when you're deciding where you're gonna go eat or what movie you're gonna see, like it's how someone handles the decision making. It's how someone handles when you say no to them, the
It's not
disappointment.
what they say. It's what they do.
Exactly.
It's not what
It's how they handle
they
these
say, but how they
situations.
say it.
And it's
Not
and
what they say, but how they say it.
this is what I'm saying. You don't watch what you watch how people react and how they handle situations because how they handle making a decision about what movie and if they get sucky because you want to see something or you want to go somewhere to eat or you don't want to drive or whatever it is,
But those are
best
small
believe
things, though.
no,
What
best
that
believe
no, but
this
what
is
but what
how they're going to expect to have their own way, or they're not going to want to negotiate when it comes to the big
no, you
issues.
see what I'm trying to say is what I was alluded to. What I'm saying that you're not really listening to what I'm saying
Okay.
is when the knife gets sucked out, it's like the shoes is one thing, but what happens is now when you start living with somebody, those things become compounded. You get the shoes, the glass on the table, or you know what, and not put in dishwasher. The you know what, they don't like that you know. I don't like, for instance, you know what, like another quirk like that I have.
Mhm.
For some reason, I have to use soap on my toothbrush, like brush off my toothbrush. I'm not a hypochondriac, but I just think like, you know what, you need to like wipe off your own, wash your toothbrush before you put toothpaste and put it in your mouth.
Okay.
And it's the grossest thing in the world to me when people just brush their teeth, wash up the toothbrush, and put it in their thing, and then go put it back in their mouth.
Mhm.
Right? Just being worried for me, and then to think that, oh, I gotta kiss my girl after. I mean, even if she brushed her
So in
teeth,
order to be
it's
happy with your woman, she's gonna have to wash her toothbrush every time she's there with soap.
I'm saying like it's those little quirks I have, right? Like you know what?
Well, honey, that's something that it might be little, but if you're requiring someone else to do that,
Mhm,
then that's
mhm.
something that is big, and that's something
But
that
it's
you
the
would have to discuss.
compounding.
No,
It's the
you would have to
compounding
discuss
though.
that from the beginning. Now, if you want to do that with your own toothbrush, funny enough, the funny thing you say that, and I know this sounds crazy, but from time to time, I, first of all, I don't keep my toothbrush, and this is something I'm funny like this. I don't keep my toothbrush in the bathroom. I don't
Right.
believe in toothbrush being left in the bathroom, and I don't cover my toothbrush up at home all the time because I believe air and I don't believe in closing up moist things and all that good stuff. Okay, so I
Right.
don't keep my toothbruch, and people know that about me. Like, and I don't. That's me. I don't keep it in the bathroom. There's two.
But do you know why you don't? You do,
And
I agree with you.
on
You don't know
occasion, what I do is for me, but I mean, and I'll switch my toothbrush every couple months. Like I use my indicator on my
2 months, every
toothbrush
two
actually,
months. Yeah, I need two
but
months.
in between there are times where I will I just put a little capful of rub or alcohol and I have the spray bottle one from the dollar store and sometimes
Right.
I just spray it. I just do that once in a while, but I don't wash my toothbrush with soap every time I use it.
No, but you
And if
do. But
you're
you
going to
know.
come
But
into
here's
a
the thing.
relationship and you're going to require that
You
of me,
do it.
then that might be a problem because I ain't
I'm not.
taking that habit
What
on.
I'm. But you see, that's what I'm trying to say is,
Right.
for me, it's a quirk, right? But you don't know that until if that is a problem. The reason why, and I maybe I'll educate your crew, the people listeners, right?
Uh-huh.
Basically, what it comes down to, the reason why I do that is
Yeah.
that people don't realize that when you go to the washroom and excrete, you know,
Yes.
your bodily
And you
thing,
flush.
it actually hangs in the air,
Yes. It
right?
does.
This is why.
This is why I
This
don't
is
keep
why
my
it's like, you know
toothbrush
what?
in the bathroom.
Right. That's my point. But my thing is like, you know what I do? I have to believe in wash it off. I put in paper around. I put paper around the toothbrush. I do put it in, and I leave it up. Right. But this is the reason why I'm saying this. Just working in a health industry for a
Yeah.
while, I learned these things, and it became a quirk. I'm not a hypochondriac. It's just a health thing that people don't realize that feces
Yes.
goes onto your brush. So I believe in
Stop.
washing.
Because when you flush, and that's why I do not stay in the bathroom once I flush. Like I don't care whose bathroom it is.
Right.
Like I will flush and I'm out because it
Right.
that's what goes up in the air, the mist or whatever.
Exactly. No,
Especially in
it's not
those
even the
public
mist.
bathrooms
It's
where
not
they're
only the
strong.
mist.
I don't
It's
know
it's
what it
the
is, what
the
they call it,
smell.
but it's shit that comes up in the air. Excuse my language, for lack
But
of
it's
a better
also
word.
remember, it's the odor. The odors in the air.
Okay,
That
I hate
odor.
bathrooms, and I have a thing about toilets too. I'm just like I clean a toilet. I like a like I like a clean toilet, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like it's just not my favorite. And me personally, I can't take a mug, a drink, any type of food, nothing in the bathroom. And when I see people can
Bathroom.
do
Right.
that, and they can put their cup
Right.
down and be drinking coffee in the mirror. Oh, that makes me. I was at a resort once with someone's shared room, and this man, this was instant turn off. This man brushed his teeth and put it down on the sink side, right there in the big old public bathroom. That how
Bathroom.
many
Yeah.
people have stayed in this resort? And I don't care
Right.
how clean that counter is. There is no way. And I looked at that, and I looked at his mouth, and I was like, "Mm-mm." So I know exactly what you're about, and but the difference is I say these things very like, okay, cell phones, people touch their cell phones, they come inside. I wipe my cell phone down every time I come in.
What
Yeah,
what
I have wipes, and then I also have this little spray.
yeah,
I'm shaking it right now. It's a Clorox
right,
Electronics cleaning spray, and I spray this
right.
on. It comes with a little cloth, and I also use paper towels, and I wipe my phone down every. And when men want to like
Use
just
your
touch
phone.
anything and then want to come even put their hand on my face, oh no, or touch my hand, no, because there
Yeah.
are germs everywhere. So you know what? And I
Listen, you
I
can
think I
be too clean
annoyed
with
some people
ancestors. Yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe turn some people, but that's me, and I walk with these things. I have hand sanitizer,
People that you gotta find people that love the way you do or live the way
or
you
at
do, right?
just at least can accept it and say, you know
Right.
what? There's so much more about her that I like, so I will tolerate her fussiness with this thing. And when I come in, I'll wash my hands, I'll wipe my phone or whatever if I need to, or I won't touch my phone after I wash my hands and just whatever. And I'm not crazy
Why
about it.
I just need a West Indian oriented woman because a lot of these words come from it,
Yes.
right? Like we share a lot of the
True.
same things, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I tell people like, yo, listen, I'll date anybody, but my preference is a West Indian woman because that's how we live,
Yeah.
right?
There are
There's
things. Yeah.
certain things, there's cultural things that go along, and not every West Indian woman is like that. Like, there's again, a Jamaican woman will live a certain way, and it depends on where you come from. It's different things. So again, you
Mm.
just have to find people that love the way you do and live the way you do, can
And
accept
I'm
the
the
changes,
watered down type too. I'm
right? And timing.
The Canadian West Indian. So I'm kind of the watered down type too. So there's the hardcore, the real, real. So I may not even pass everybody's standards, their tests, but hey, I think we all, yeah, we have same basic. And that shoe thing, walking in, yeah, that's a big one for real, for real. But on that note, I think we're gonna wrap it up. But I think we should talk more about things that we like and we don't like on an upcoming show, and maybe speak to an expert about what this all means and how to get past the differences. Oh, I lost Kinetic. Okay, Kinetic, if you jump back on before I say bye, then great. If not, I'm going to apologize or say goodbye on his behalf. Um, Thank you for everyone who tuned in tonight. And remember, if you missed any of this show or you just want to hear it again, and you can listen to it as a podcast. Search Vex Radio or Cake with Care C on TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud. You can even watch it on YouTube. And do remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. I go by Cake with Care C. I Kinetic 100. And Miss Super Nerd, she's away. She's in Asia. She's traveling with her girl for her birthday, and or her girl's birthday. So we did communicate with her. She's having a great time, and she's gonna have lots of stories to share with us when she comes back on a upcoming show. Um, yeah, and Kinetic's not back, so I'm just gonna say bye for now, and tune in next Tuesday where we do it again, 9 o'clock, vexradio.com. And remember, between now and then, listen for the best in hip hop and R&B. Oh, and you can also send a shout out on air or send a request in to hear a song, new or old, that you'd like to hear play on the radio. The number to dial 1-877-469-3016. Choose one for shout out and choose 2 to request your song. Again, the number 1-877-469-3016. Until next time, take care.